What's up, guys? I'm JP.
And I'm Ryan. How are we doing tonight, fellow CineNerds?
We're doing good.
Fuck yeah.
CineNerdsPodcast.com. Check us out. All of our reviews are there, our new shows, upcoming schedule. Share it. Share it. Share this video.
Sharing is caring.
Write us a review. Type in the comments. Yeah, click like on this video. All that. Do all of it.
You know the routine. And remember, we cannot do what we do without you guys. So just, share that shit and check in often. We love you. Okay, I'll shut up now.
So, what'd you make me watch this week?
I made you watch fucking Perfection. Fight Club. I chose Fight Club. This is one of my all-time favorite films, and it is... Every watch still holds up for me. I know there'll be varying opinions on that. I can tell already JP is not feeling that way, but I definitely do. So let's get into it.
So I guess we'll dive into initial reactions.
I think we've both seen this one a few times, though, but still, yeah.
I've honestly not seen this film as many times as you would think that I have.
Okay.
This was actually the third time I've ever seen it. So I watched this film when it originally came out, and I don't say this often out loud, but I'll just go ahead and throw this out here. I'm a massive Brad Pitt fan. Massive Brad Pitt fan. Like, I love a lot of his films. Like, ever since the first time I saw him in the horror film Cutting Class, I really liked him. And then obviously from there, Cool World, Seven, which Seven is like, I fucking love Seven.
Another Fincher film.
I have actually seen Seven in the film more times than any other film in the theater. And then, everything he's done in between. I mean, there's a few in there that I don't care about, but for the most part, a lot of Brad Pitt films I love. Now, when this one came out, I watched it fucking over the moon for this film the first time I watched it. Fucking loved this film. Watched it the second time. I enjoyed it, but for me, it did not hold up for a rewatch.
Oh, it definitely did for me.
It did not hold up too much for a rewatch for me. I was like, oh, I've already know the twist. It's not
now.
a surprise,
now,
for me
yeah.
now. So
the first time you watched it, the twist got you though.
Yes, and the thing
I agree.
it
got me too.
And the thing is, I rewatched it this time, and I thought, how did I miss this twist?
This watch through, I thought the exact same thing,
and that's what I thought this watch through. I was like, how did I miss this twist when it first came out? Because it's in your face through the whole fucking movie, and so I had not watched this movie again since my second viewing, which was not long after it had came out. Which is crazy because, and I never talk about my ex-wife, but I do want to. This kind of plays into the odd thing why
you didn't like another movie because of the ex-wife. I forgot what it was.
No,
but
it had nothing to do with her. But the thing was, when we first started dating, she had a Fight Club poster on her wall, and she used to say it was like one of her favorite films ever made. Like, she fucking loved Fight Club, which was weird. Like, we were together for 11 years, and this is supposedly, and this is why I'm talking about this, supposedly her favorite film, or one of her favorite films, and it was never fucking played in our house in those 11 years. So, it was never a go-to for me. So
she was watching it without you and getting happy.
after we got divorced, it was never a go-to for me. So I haven't watched it, which I always thought it was odd that this was her favorite film, but she never watched it.
I bet she paused it on the Brad Pitt fighting scene, and she just likes yeah.
So this is one I just have not revisited because my second watch I just was like, it's good, but I've seen it. And I didn't ever want to rewatch it. So, yeah.
There are so many moments in this movie that I felt like a jackass and this is, after the first watch, where you are like, and I get reminded every time I rewatch it, well, how the fuck did I not catch this twist? The same thing. Specifically, there's one moment with Marla when Marla and Tyler are hooking up in the house, and the narrator, who later in the comic book part 2, he has a name on him. It's Sebastian, but Ed Norton's character, the narrator, he walks up to talk to Tyler, and Marla's in the background in bed, and then narrator walks away. And Marla looks at Tyler and goes, "Who are you talking to?" And like that moment, there's a few other moments along the way that were just like very, very puzzling too, like how in your face it was. And it took me a second, and I was just so mad at myself, because usually I catch those things right away. My wife almost hates it to a fault, where we're in like 5 minutes into the movie, I'm like, this, and this is what's going to happen. Yeah. So she gets a little mad.
So you've obviously watched this movie a lot.
I have not only watched this movie a lot, I have read the book multiple times. My favorite author is Chuck Palahniuk.
Okay.
By the way, I say Palahniuk, and everybody else in this world says it a million different ways. When I Googled how to say it, it said Palahniuk. But then I listened to the pronunciations, even though it's like phonetically put Palahniuk. It was just butchered every other which way. So I don't know what the correct way to say is. So Chuck Palahniuk.
So you've read the book, you've seen the movie a lot. So this is my big question that I don't understand, and I'm just going to flat ask you right here. When did his personality split? Or when did he invent this? What caused his?
He's having a psychological breakdown.
Yeah, what caused his psychological break? When did it actually happen?
I think in dealing with his job. I think the job was what put him there, because of the travel, because of the loneliness. I think the rinse and repeat, if you will, of the IKEA catalogs. I think all these things, when you have a foundationally boring life, essentially like he had, your mind starts to spiral a little bit. I think if you're too routine, you're too pattern, and you don't have a reason for that. And let's not leave out the insomnia. He's a huge insomnia person. I can identify with that wholeheartedly. But I think all these things were a shitstorm that came together for Tyler.
So, and the reason I asked this, because this is one thing I noticed this watch. Again, this is only the third time I've ever watched this film.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's what I said. I watched it twice and never watched it again years ago. And never played. This is the third time I've ever seen this film. So watching it this time, when he's at the very beginning of the movie, when he's in the hospital saying, "Hey, I can't sleep," blah blah blah. I can't remember if he's looking at the doctor or who he's looking at, but he's getting ready to leave the doctor's office, and you see a flash of Tyler. Like for a second.
Are you sure it's Tyler?
Looked like it to me.
Because they're all throughout the movie, and there are different flashes of different people.
Yeah, okay.
But that could make sense.
That one looked like Tyler to me. I saw it, and it looked like Brad Pitt. It was a quick flash. And then at that point, he started going to
the support groups.
The support groups, and he started sleeping. So at that point, I'm like...
But that was because he was crying. That would help him sleep.
Well, but he was sleeping. So I was like, okay, so this didn't happen because loss of sleep, because he's sleeping at this point. Or had he already snapped before then?
I think he had already snapped before that.
Because at that point, it just showed the one flash. And so that's where it really snowballed for me in confusion, is I never really saw the snap. And then I got confused because he had this mundane life, always in the office, always copying these same papers, doing these same files. But then he's not in the office. He's also flying from city to city looking at cars. So it's like, well, you're not always in the office. I get you're out in different time zones and your sleep schedule gets really screwed up. So,
but that's I feel like that also adheres to the single serving premise, where he's like single serving coffee, single serving friends, single serving this, because that adds more to the depth of the loneliness, I feel. And I think loneliness is a really intense thing. I think it can really fuck with people's heads. So to me, this kind of was a perfect storm that just kind of was boiling to the surface. So I also, because I've had the privilege, and I say privilege, to read the Chuck Palahniuk books, I find his writing to be some of the most pure writing I've ever seen in my life, because he paints a picture with his words that defines what you're looking like. So like if I'm reading one of his books, I feel like I'm watching a movie. There's not a lot of authors who can convey that the same way, and I feel like in this case, I actually saw the movie before I read the book, and I feel like it didn't in this, because this is one of those few movies that translates well from book to movie, with the exception of a few twists. I feel like the picture he painted was the picture I got, and I was very pleased with it, all start to finish. But that snap, that break, I feel really, really was because of loneliness and the mundane routine of job obligations, and like every day we all go to work, we all wake up, do the same thing, not because we want to, not because that's what we feel is on our agenda that day. It's because we know we have to pay the bills and do the things we have to do, and that can really add up fast.
I guess my confusion was I never saw the snap. I guess that's what I wanted to see, and I just stayed confused.
I don't
Like,
think you were meant to see the snap though, too, if I'm being honest,
I mean,
because
I get it.
he doesn't.
That gives the mystery of the movie.
Well, that, and he doesn't even know that Tyler's not real to start.
Yeah,
So
that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I guess that could be argued, but
I had my long answer, and then that was the simplest.
that actually clears it up better in my head. You saying that out loud, even though I know that's how I should feel.
Yeah,
You know, I get that, and I did read that. And what's the guy who wrote the novel?
Chuck Palahniuk.
Thank you. I did read a tidbit where he had said that he actually thought the film improved his book.
Yeah, and I can absolutely speak to all that too if when we get there. Well,
Okay.
what I've got, definitely, because there are subtle differences with the characters in the book versus the characters in the movie, but I do agree that the movie actually did justice to the characters and the way they presented it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, no. So essentially, we've kind of painted the picture and talked about Edward Norton's character, the narrator. And I, if I say Sebastian, narrator, Ed Norton, all the same person. And I only found out about Sebastian recently because I have not read the comics for Fight Club 2, which is where they split this. They actually made a sequel, but in comic form. It's a 4-book run. And I have to get a hold of it now that I know about it, because I can't find it anywhere.
I'll be interested to know how they continue it for a sequel.
I'll get to. I can tell you that too. So that I'll just tell you that one right now. So it's set 10 years after the events of Fight Club, and in the book, because I think that if I'm not positive on how it continues, but in the books, after the suicide attempt, because he kills off Tyler in the movie, in the books though, that version of Edward Norton's narrator Sebastian carries on, but he's in a psych ward. He wakes up and he thinks he's in heaven. In the end of the book, this is how it goes. He thinks he's in heaven because he sees all the white, but he's in he's in an insane place. Now, fast forward to the books. I guess it takes place 10 years afterwards. He's still with Marla. He's dealing with the routine of everyday life again, as I said before, and Tyler is kind of the narrator in this instance, where he's inside and he's just seeing everything through the narrator's eyes this time, and then he boils back to the surface and comes back out, and the story ensues.
That's interesting. That's interesting. That could make for that could be definitely make for an interesting sequel, even to be done now.
When I tell you about the differences of the book too, you're going to be like, oh, I kind of wanted that version better. In the book, Tyler Durden, the alter ego of the narrator, basically he becomes homicidal and he starts killing people, and to get to his agenda. And in the book, he wants to essentially take out the tallest building in the city, and when it goes down, he'll go with it, and he will become a godlike figure, remembered, and be a martyr to his followers. So
I don't know if I like that better. I think I like the movie. I like them blowing up the buildings for credit cards and bank info.
So that is where everything got really cool, because they wanted, the part when you're not your khakis, that whole scene, you're not your khakis, you're not your possessions, that whole bit. when they do that part, I guess in the book originally, sorry, not I guess, I read, but a mechanic says these lines and says these things. When they got Tyler Durden or Brad Pitt to be the character, they wanted people to have the main character saying these things so that they could essentially give the audience something to identify with more, and also making his end goal to blow up the credit card companies to make society balanced out again, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The goal was by him not killing people, him trying to make sure the buildings were all empty, everyone was safe, credit card debt wiped. The audience now is like, this is amazing because I can identify with this. We all don't want debt. We all don't want anyone to die. Well, this is perfect. So they did those changes, and I think that it made that movie just.
No, I think that works better, and I think it works better, especially with how it builds to that with the idea of like when they are is it the mayor or that they drag into the bathroom and they go in and he says, you know, we can get you anytime. You know, we haul off your trash. We clean your floors. We bring you your food. You know, I think that's a very powerful scene, and it's a very powerful moment with if you actually had common people get on the same page and city to city, the way that Tyler does this with the Fight Club, with the idea of, you know, we are the powerful. We run this country, you know. We can take these people out anytime we want, you know. And I'm not trying to convey that out, you know, to be like, you know, this is what we need to be doing. But it's a very strong statement, you know, if these people organized like this, you know, there would be people couldn't stop it. It couldn't be stopped.
That's the thing. Like, I don't know what it's going to take for people to pull their heads out of their ass in current day society, but they're winning on a whole different level. And yes, sorry to go a little off script here, but they continue to find ways to divide us and keep us separate, and we just don't.
And that's both sides. That's both sides.
It is. But and I say they, I'm just saying like from the top, like they want us divided. That's like I talked a couple episodes ago about I saw recently a AI computer running, and they had hundreds of phone screens on the computer at one time, and it was dictating what material on each cell phone was being given to those people as they're watching it, as you're scrolling. It's basically predicting your algorithm so you see what they want, or you're seeing what they want you to see. Those things usually divide us further. I mean, we're between race, between wage differences, societal gaps with middle class, lower class, upper class, the whole bit. And if we were together, this wouldn't be the same. They'd be shaking in their fucking boots.
You know, there's a shirt I wear a lot, and I wear it on tour a lot. Yeah, and still not getting political because I'm not taking sides, and I'm not going to fight that argument with any of you guys, or anybody.
Not the intent.
Yeah, it's not the intent. But I do have a shirt I wear, and I stand by this shirt that I wear, and it says, "It's we the people, not we the government," and I think that is a strong idea. It is the truth, and because it is we the people. It's about us. It's about unity. It's not about, well.
And that was the foundation of our country, was we the people, and that's gone to shit.
Yeah, it's not about the people that are in office running this country and controlling us, you know. And I'm gonna circle this back around to Fight Club, because that's what that's how I feel. Both sides. I'm not saying left or right. I'm not trying to be political because I don't want to be political on this show, but whether either side, I feel like that's what they think. It's like, you know, they think that this is their country, not our country. It's the people's country, and that's where I stand on this. So going back to this scene in Fight Club, where he's telling this mayor.
By the way, in the book, he kills the mayor.
I don't see. I like leaving the mayor alive. I think it's a bold statement to scare this mayor. We can get to you anytime, and that's
Both worked, but the movie delivered better
yeah,
for sure.
and that's kind of to me leaving that mayor alive. That's making that statement. This is we the people, you know, and that's the circle I'm coming back to is I really enjoyed that scene a lot.
You know, I like the extent of what they went to in that scene because they literally rubber banded his balls and had a
Yeah,
knife to his
yeah,
balls. So
yeah.
like it was like nothing little by any means. There's no part of anything that's little about this movie. That's what I love. And it's start to finish. Like you don't just it's not just a subtle like here's this, here's that. You start off with seeing the narrator having a gun in his mouth and you're like, what the fuck's going on? And then it backs you up and it takes you from the beginning and the ground up and goes from there. But the way this movie just delivers every point, every message. Meatloaf's character Bob, that was one of the scenes after he comes in. And he's like, let's back this up. Let's start over. He goes, Bob had bitch tits, and he's literally crying in Meatloaf's chest, and it's just amazing just to start. And you see Meatloaf, this gentle giant with this. He's supposed to be post steroids. He was a bodybuilder, and the steroids have worn off. Everything's turned to fat. He's got boobs.
Well, he had testicular cancer and had to have his testicles removed, and so he had to go on estrogen and stuff because
but his voice is
all
very
this.
high. So when you see this giant man, it's okay. And he's purposely doing that his voice, but it's perfect. Like everything about the character fits.
Meatloaf is great in this film.
Meatloaf, and I got to give it to Jared Leto. Jared.
I'm just not a.
I'm not a Jared Leto
I'm not
fan.
a Jared Leto fan, and honestly, I still feel like he's okay in it, but he's no Meatloaf.
I'm just gonna give a quick Jared Leto story. Okay, first of all, when 30 Seconds plays, if you haven't seen one of their shows, he climbs and he puts a flag somewhere. Usually, this causes a lot of problems if you're working in a concert venue because the fans now want to go get said flag, and in some instances, we're talking 100 feet up on a crow's nest that's a spotlight tower. It is not ideal, and he has upset me a couple times over. I know he's just doing his thing, but he had this girl that he could not get rid of at one of the shows, and he's walking around all backstage, and this asshole looks at me and he goes, hey, when I walk past you, ask her for her credentials and I'm going to keep walking. And I was like, get the fuck out of here. I'm like, you gotta be. So he literally walks past. I go, hey, well, excuse me. And I put my arm in front of her. She's like, wait, I'm with Jared. And she's like, Jared, he's not turning around, continues to completely walk away and ghost her. I'm like, I just need your pass and your credentials. And she didn't have it. I'm like, I'm sorry, you got to go. And if he's not turning around, I can't do anything. This is out of my realm. And it just had to play like I was innocent, which I was. But that motherfucker putting me on the spot. Anyways, so when he got his ass beat in the movie, I was like, okay, I feel a little better now. But the core of this movie for me is you have what starts out as just a mental break, a division of character, if you will. And it's kind of your old school angel devil sitting on the shoulder, right? So you got Tyler's devil and narrator's the angel, and they're figuring out who the fuck they are, and they're trying to move along, not realizing that narrator doesn't know they're two separate entities. So as this progresses, though, it turns into much more. As JP was breaking down the mayor point, this becomes more of a not just a Fight Club anymore. It becomes something much larger. And I'm going to read this and I have to have this in here before we go any further with the political side of this. The first rule of Fight Club. First rule, I know you guys are just saying it in your head right now, too, as you're listening. First rule of Fight Club is we don't talk about Fight Club. The second rule of Fight Club is that you do not talk about Fight Club. The third rule of Fight Club, if someone yells stop, goes limp, taps out, the fight is over. Fourth rule, only 2 guys to a fight. Fifth rule, 1 fight at a time. Sixth rule, no shirts, no shoes. Seventh rule, fights will go on as long as they have to. And the 8th and final rule, if this is your first time at Fight Club, you have to fight. This builds into something that is phenomenal because the amount of people that don't have an outlet, the amount of people who just want to have a brutal, raw moment of letting out your frustration. I think you and I have talked about this. You had a moment, and I won't get into details, but you had a moment where you were frustrated with a certain scenario and you took it out on someone.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Fight Club kind of embodied that, and that made this kind of cult-like following for Tyler and the narrator in this movie. And that cult-like following becomes the foundation of something bigger called Project Mayhem, which is what we've talked about with the credit card buildings and that going down. They named that project that, but it's being done in secret. And while it's being done in secret, all these people that all connect throughout the city that are all, your waiters, your waitresses, your garbage men, all that have black eyes and these stitches and these welts and these things, it's all connected, and they know that they're the reason that society's going is because of them. And when this project comes into play and the events start unfolding in this movie, it's just surreal how it all comes together for me. So I just, the hope, or I don't want to say want, of no one getting hurt, society kind of getting reset financially, the imagination element of all of us having that light and darkness inside of our head and us fighting back and forth. I literally love this movie. I can't say enough about this.
I can tell. No, this movie, it is a good movie. And am I going to sit as high on a rating for this movie as him? I don't think that's possible. But I do really enjoy this movie. This film is beautifully shot. Brad Pitt is great. Edward Norton is great.
I personally, I feel this is Edward Norton's best performance he's ever done. What do you think's better?
Death Smoochie.
That is a good movie. I will give that is a great movie.
Death Smoochie. I that's probably my favorite Edward Norton film. I will say Primal Fear is up there too.
Yeah, I know. I love this. This movie is easily, I would say this is top 5. No problem. No, I said top 10 earlier. It's top 5. It's definitely sitting in number 5 for sure.
So the painful scene for me though in this, when they bring a body into the,
his name was Robert Paulson.
His name is Robert Paulson.
His name was Robert Paulson.
His name is Robert Paulson.
Say is or was? Is. It's is. Yeah.
They are doing Project Mayhem, and are doing the random acts of terror, I guess you could call it. And Meatloaf's character Bob gets shot, so they carry him into the house where they're all congregating and trying to implement their plans. You put him on the table, and Edward Norton he has like the full ski mask on. He takes the ski mask off, and the effects on this scene are fucking good. Like his whole top of his head is just gone. It's blown away. And Edward Norton's like, Bob's dead, freaking out, and
I mean, the self attempt to unalive at the end of the movie too, where it goes out of the side of his jaw.
That one's amazing.
I was
too.
like, that's fucking, because he survives it, and he's sitting there, and I'm like, there's a fucking hole out of his chin, and it was so perfectly done. I was like, this is great. And then
the smoke coming out
of Brad Pitt's mouth. Yeah, I was like, yes, dude, it was so good. And I don't cheer that type of thing obviously normally, but for the context of this movie and for the story, it was so good. Go ahead. Sorry, I got excited.
You're excited. You keep going.
So, I just want to also pause and talk a little bit more about Chuck Palahniuk. So, I rave about him as an author. Obviously, there's one other Chuck Palahniuk movie that was made that is an amazing, amazing movie. If you like Fight Club, it's not all fighting and like macho whatever, but it is fucking amazing. It's called Choke, and Sam Rockwell, Angelica Houston are in it. Sam Rockwell's character is a reformed or attempting to be reformed sex addict. There's so many fucked up and amazingly beautiful parts in this book and movie as well. Check that out. And then one of my favorite books by him is called Haunted. And Haunted is amazing because he gets a group of authors together, they're locked into one place and they all have to write the story of their life. They can't have TV or access to news or the outside world. They're literally locked into this place where they have to write this. And each chapter, there's like a chapter that's about the author themselves and their personal life, and there's a chapter that's about the story that they've written. And there's one particular story that one of the authors writes, and the story is about a young boy who's coming of age. She's preteen, 13, 14, somewhere in there. He's obsessed with masturbation, and he has an older brother who travels the world because he's in the military, and his older brother knows he's obsessed with masturbation. And so wherever he goes to anywhere in the world, he sends him back, like, whether it's books, topics, anything from that area. And there's a scene not a scene, I say it like that because of how he paints these pictures, but I'm reading one of these acts he's doing, and I won't ruin it for anyone because holy shit, it messed with me so bad. I put the book down, threw it across the table, and said, "Oh no. Like it was so good. I've never had a book that I just threw it to the side because it was painted so perfectly. I could visualize every detail and everything happening, and I was like, no, that's ow." But I can't speak highly enough about him as an author. Chuck Palahniuk, please check him out. The movie Choke is the other one that he's put out. But back to Fight Club now.
See, and I'm not real familiar with him, so like,
oh, so good.
I know Fight Club, I know it as a movie, but I wasn't familiar with him as a writer. So,
I've been asked this question before for work reasons, but it was, if you didn't choose the career path you're on now, what would you have liked to do? And mine has always been an author. I've always wanted to write. So I look to him as kind of the quintessential author. He's so amazing at what he does. Him, Stephen King, obviously, is up there too. But I like that Chuck. He's not conservative at all, but he's on X, and he loves engaging with his fans. So he gives them writer templates and writer starting points, and then he asks them to write and finish it, and people all tweet their bits in there, and it's just kind of a cool outlet as a writer to see those things. Back to Fight Club.
Fight Club.
This fucking movie rules.
We're breaking the first rule of Fight Club.
Well, it's okay.
So yeah, this climax, we talked a little bit about it, but Edward Norton finally figures out, he flies to all these cities, and he's finding that fight clubs are all around every city he's been to.
Or that he hasn't been to and are just spread.
Yeah. And he finally gets to one guy who actually recognizes him as Tyler, and he starts putting things together, and then he actually talks to Tyler, and that's when it comes out that, like, we're the same person.
The realization, that was insane.
So at this point, he is going back home and finding out that, hey, they're going to blow shit up. They're going to blow buildings up, and he's trying to get his girl out of the city, thinking that, they're going to fuck her up because she knows too much.
By the way, I'm not a Helena Bonham Carter fan.
I'm not either.
Big Fish, I give her. That's good because they're Big Fish, and in this movie, I give her. But I don't know. There's something that's so oddly not attractive about her. I can't pin it. But
yeah, I was never a big fan of hers. But she did a lot of films with, obviously, Tim Burton. So
too many.
But I mean, they were partners for years. I don't know if they're still together now or not. I don't think they are.
I thought they were.
I thought that they had split up, but I was never a big fan of hers. Like you said, she's not bad in. She's pretty good in Big Fish. She's got films she's not bad in.
I like her acting.
She's never. I will say she's not bad in anything. I do like her in the Harry Potter films.
What's her Beatrix? No,
yeah,
something like that.
I can't even think of her name right now, but yeah, I enjoy her in those. But yeah, this climax of him going up and figuring out, he can't defuse all the bombs, and then kind of giving up and going upstairs and shooting himself in the head to get rid of Tyler.
In his boxers, a trench coat, and combat boots.
Yeah. And that whole scene is good. The practical effects with the back of his head blown out and smoke rolling out of his mouth and smoke rolling out of Brad Pitt's mouth and the whole ending scene with him and her holding hands while these buildings are exploding and falling while the soundtrack to What's Wrong with My Mind is playing in the background it's a
Where's My
very,
Mind is perfect for that at the end.
It's a very perfect ending scene.
And you know what I love about that movie is, like, I was fortunate enough to have already been introduced to and love the Pixies at that juncture, but a lot of people who watch that movie that are younger than me that are coming up that have never heard the Pixies, that's their first introduction to Pixies, and as a music lover, that's fucking beautiful.
The song works so perfect.
Yeah,
in that
without a
scene.
doubt. Marla is quite the pain in the ass too. By the way, her attempted suicide scene is pretty comedic, and I say that because of how it all translates. Tyler goes to her place. There's so much more we left out, but that's fine.
Yeah.
All I know is that if you guys haven't seen Fight Club by now, you're out of your mind. Please go watch it for me.
Well, there's a lot to unpack in this movie, and we've talked a lot, but we've talked more about the
Passion I have.
Well, the passion you had, but also the mental health aspect of this film, with him actually breaking, there's a lot to unpack with that. There's a lot to unpack with the building of basically essentially an army, to do these things that he's setting out to do with Project Mayhem.
And as he builds these followers too, the other thing to keep in mind is the initiation policies, the way that he does that. That was one of those clicking factors for for the narrator to understand that him and Tyler were the same. Was there's a burn scar. Tyler holds his hand down and pours acid on his hand, and he all that narrator wants to do is he wants to make the pain stop, and Tyler makes him sit through it and hold through it and until he calms down and he breathes and he's sitting there and the acid stopped bubbling in his hand and he's now got this scar. So later on when that moment of realization happens, like that they realize they're the same person, it's because he looks over at the hand too and he sees the scar with him. There's a few things going on there, but then initiations also. Fight Club itself, as people were getting initiated, if they didn't have someone to live, they were like building an army out of this house, this rundown house.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you know the song Cute Without the E from Taking Back Sunday?
Yeah.
So if you haven't ever seen that video, it's a complete spoof on Fight Club, all the way down to handing the bottle over to somebody who's not there and the bottle dropping on the ground. Like, that was a cool moment too, if I have to be honest, was the whole realization of when it all clicks in that he and Tyler are the same and he starts realizing all those moments and you see all those moments flash back. It's so good just to understand the depth of how far and how crazy he's gone.
Yeah. Did you look at box office budget?
I did on this one.
So I'm gonna guess this one.
All right.
I've got it, but I didn't look at it.
Well, what was the budget? Let's start with that first.
I'm gonna guess this movie, this cast. I'm gonna imagine that it's a small budget for the cast. So I'm gonna guess $20 million.
Oh, you're way low.
Really?
Yeah, 63 mil.
Was the budget?
Yep.
Wow.
U.S. and Canada was 37 million. Worldwide was 101 million. So it did.
So you didn't even let me guess the.
I didn't. I
Box
just went right
office.
into it. I'm
You
sorry.
did.
I didn't even think about it. I just got excited there because I was that too. Okay, so I should have. I'm sorry. My bad. But no, just
I do it for you.
The sheer excitement of just knowing that movie succeeded on, as far as I'm concerned, is pretty fucking amazing. Not on U.S. and Canada soil, but worldwide.
Yeah, it's a good movie. So we'll get into our ratings. Again, I mean, you heard me say it throughout the episode. My initial watch on this, first time I watched it, this movie probably would have been, I don't know if it'd be a 5. I don't know if it'd be a 5. It would probably be a 4.6 or 7, maybe even an 8. It would be close because I fucking love this film. My rewatch of this, the first rewatch, it nosedived for me. for me, rewatching this film the second time, I did not enjoy it the second time. Now let's fast forward. How many years later is this? 25 years later since this film came out, and this would be the third time I've watched it. It's almost with fresh eyes. But I was actually surprised at how much of this movie I remembered.
There's a lot of memorable moments,
And
and to your point, you and I talked about this earlier with another movie. Is going back in for that second and third watch, there's so much background stuff going on, and so many the cigarette burns and the little flashes of people's bodies all throughout the movie. Yeah. Those things are cool.
And that's what I was getting at. I'm noticing things. I'm noticing more things. I'm watching it going, why didn't I catch the twist before the end the first time? It's not as smart as I thought it was, but yet it is because of all these little tidbits that are in it. But that being said, if you have never seen Fight Club, I recommend watch it now. Just stop what you're doing. Just watch this film. If you want to watch it as a rewatch, I don't know. I'm back and forth on that. I did really enjoy it this time. The first time I didn't. This time I did, but this is 25 years later that I enjoyed it. I think with this rewatch, it being such a long stretch, I'm not going to sit as high as what I initially felt when I first watched it. This time, I'm going to sit at about a 3.9.
Fuck that noise. I knew he was going to go low. I didn't think he was going to go that low. God.
3.9 is not low.
Yeah, it's not bad. I put this one up there. So, obviously, I love the author who wrote Fight Club. Chuck Palahniuk is amazing. I love what he does for every book that he writes and the way he invests into each character and paints that picture for you. That said, this movie, the way that it transposed from book to movie was the adjustments that were made were with Chuck's knowledge and approval. And I think that Fincher did this movie justice wholeheartedly. From book to movie, and also start to finish, this was a great roller coaster. I never lost interest. I never felt like there was pacing issues. I never felt like I was bothered by having to watch it. Anytime I've watched it, mind you, I feel like every time I'm watching it, I do find new little fun things. I feel like society right now, with our economy and the state that it's in, there's still a lot of relevant things with this movie, specifically how broke we all are and how taking down everyone's debt through, if that could ever happen, would be a thing. I would be all here for it. I'm sure a lot of you would too. But that said, though, all these factors, all the cast, the movie as a whole, this one is, I think this is either the second or third time I've done this, but this is a full fucking 5 nerds. This is a perfect film, start to finish, in my opinion. I love everything about this movie. This is a movie I can put on in the background. I can put on to sit and watch and dive into it and get really vested in it. It's just one of those movies for any occasion, in my opinion, not with the kids, but fucking perfection, in my opinion.
I knew you were going to go to a 5. I knew he was.
Well, that's probably helps because a couple episodes ago I said in the weeks to come there's going to be a 5. So,
well, yeah, you said that too.
Yeah.
Recommendations.
Well, I already talked about it, but since we're talking about the Fight Club movie and Chuck Palahniuk, I have 2 recommendations, but I'll start with the movie I talked about, Choke. Again, Sam Rockwell's in it as a main character, another book that's been written by Chuck Palahniuk. And if you are a fan of drama, relationship drama, sex addicts, and crazy, perverse, fucked up scenarios, give it a watch. I think it's spectacular. Again, huge fan of Chuck Palahniuk, so that's why I pushed that one. And then a series, I just started watching it. I've gotten to the point in my queue on Netflix where I have so many things I keep adding to the queue, but I just don't ever tackle them. So when I have a moment now, I won't let myself shuffle or look through them. Whatever's first in the list is what I'm watching next. So I had put the show, it already had 1 season, and I put the show called The Recruit from Netflix into my queue. And it's, if you had a Jason Bourne-like character who wasn't skilled if that makes sense. He's a CIA operative, and he's going through the motions. He's more so a lawyer with the CIA, if I'm being frank. But the way the story unfolds is pretty solid, pretty modern. It's got a great soundtrack, and it's keeping my interest. I'm only through season 1, just starting season 2.
I'm gonna do a film review recommendation.
We just did one of those.
Yeah, we just did a review. Quick recommendation. This is one. This is another 2016 movie. I think I recommended a 2016 movie last time, and this is another one that I've watched recently that I missed, and I'm sure a lot of you have seen it because it is a Mike Flanagan movie. If you know who Mike Flanagan, did Haunting of Bly Manor and Haunting on Hill House and Doctor Sleep. Number of films, great films.
You like Dr. Sleep a lot more than me, though.
I love Doctor Sleep, but that aside, this is a Mike Flanagan movie that I'd never heard of and just quite frankly did not watch until like a week ago. Before I Wake.
I keep seeing this in my queue and I keep passing it over.
I watched this like a week ago, and man, I will say it's one of the weaker Mike Flanagan films that I've seen. But that's not saying anything bad because his movies are really, really fucking great. This one it's a novel, has Thomas Jane in it. It's about this orphan child that he dreams he can bring his dreams into reality, but also that comes with nightmares, and it escalates from there. And
I love that concept.
Yeah,
though.
it's a great concept. Like, you can go from having butterflies flying around you and to demons around you. Like it's pretty insane. And basically he has this demon that has followed him his whole life. There's more to it by the time it's actually the twist at the end on what the demon is. But this demon is essentially killing people and taking them into the dream world or other world. So that's why he stays orphaned. Like it will take the people who's brought him in. And continues to take people. That he wakes up and the demon disappears because he's manifesting all this. It's a movie that I passed over, and finally was like, it sounds interesting. I'm gonna watch it. And when I went to watch it, then that's actually when I realized it was a Mike Flanagan movie. Did not even realize it was one of his films.
The Flanagan series on Netflix. This is my order for the record: Fall of the House Usher, Haunting in Hill House, and then Bly. I can't stand Bly Manor.
I wasn't a fan of Bly Manor, but Haunting Hill House and Fall of the House of Usher are great.
Dude, I wasn't expecting, like, obviously it's a re-envisioning of the Fall of the House of Usher, but holy shit was it good.
Yeah.
What a cast, too. Like, all around, I mean, they're the same cast, but there's new characters that came in, but wow.
Yeah, I agree. That one's better than Haunting on Hill House, but Haunting Hill House is a great, too.
The missus loved Bly Manor, too. She liked all of them, but I just couldn't get down with Bly Manor. I tried.
Yeah. All right. Well, until next time.
Peace out.
Later.